Welcome back to the MTN Giants podcast. We're reacting to the final regular season game. And ever since I've been doing Giants commentary since 2018's season, this would be it. This would be the last game we're reacting to, but this is the first time we're going to be in the playoffs, which is amazing. And the Giants will be at Minnesota next week as expected. Things went the way they were supposed to. Philly won. Not as easy as I thought it would be for Philly, to be honest with you, but we'll talk about that. And of course, San Fran, they blew out the Cardinals. So that game was actually close for a bit, but then the Niners won by like 30. So the Giants will be at Minnesota. Not sure what day, what time. We'll learn about that stuff in the coming hours, days. We'll find out soon, I'm sure. But anyway, the Giants do lose 16-22. Philly gets the first seed, whatever. They're 14-3. Now the Giants, they are 3-6-1 in their past, 10 games. So obviously, it's not what you want to see. As I said in my preview video, you'd rather have it be the opposite, where you start out the year slow and end the second half on like a hot streak, kind of like what the Packers are doing right now. But still, the Giants are 9-7-1 at the end of the day, so that's all that matters. But it was fun. It was, honestly, no losses are that fun, but I would say it's the most enjoyable loss you can have because it literally felt like a preseason game and your opponent was playing for a lot and they still had trouble beating this team. I mean, we knew kind of early on when it was 16-0, it was going to be tough for the Giants to come back in this game and win, but in the fourth quarter, they outscored Philly 13-3, and they actually made it a game. They only lost by 6, and the Giants coming into this, I believe, were 16.5-point underdogs. So to battle like that and to just keep fighting, and despite not having any luck on the fake field goal and the onside kick, the Giants still found a way to play very good defense with their third and fourth string corners versus Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and even Dallas Goedert. So I think they played a very good game. It sucks you don't win, but to see Davis Webb get his first NFL start and have his first passing touchdown, completion, rushing touchdown, and have some nice moments, it was cool to see. So, of course, Gary Brightwell had the most yards rushing, and Lawrence Cager led in receiving, things you would see in the preseason, not the regular season, but this was a special occurrence here for the Giants. But yeah, we'll talk about this game. We'll talk about the future, of course, the Vikings game. We'll talk about that for a bit, and then, of course, we'll do like the in-depth preview on most likely Friday. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Leave a like, and let's get into it. So we'll start on offense, as we always do, but I actually want to just give a shout-out to the coaches because not only today, but for the entire season. I mean, the Giants, of course, they came in as I think projected 7 wins, maybe 7. I think it was 7, yeah, 7 on the dot. And of course, they finished with 9 wins. And this was a team that was in an obvious rebuilding year. They were not supposed to make the playoffs. They were probably supposed to be the last team in this division. They were not supposed to be in the postseason. And today's game is like another example of, Philly playing their guys and starting everybody and wanting to get that number 1 seed. I mean, I know Jalen Hurts came back from the shoulder injury. He missed the past 2 games. Okay, maybe he was a bit rusty. He clearly did not want to get hit. But for the Giants to stay in that game with the amount of talent they had out there, which was not much at all. I mean, you're sitting guys like Saquon and Daniel Jones and Adoree Jackson, Xavier McKinney, and Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence and like Azeez Ojulari, Kayvon Thibodeau. The list goes on and on. For the Giants to compete with those guys off the field versus a Philly team who is 14-3 and getting the 1 seed, it's impressive stuff. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, the coaching staff has done a tremendous job with what they have been given. And I do think, we can sit here and give Daniel Jones a lot of credit, which he deserves, and Saquon Barkley a lot of credit, which he deserves, and the defense a lot of credit, the players individually, Dexter Lawrence having a breakout season. But without the coaching, I don't think we get here, all right? Like, we saw what happened under Pat Shurmur, under Joe Judge, and it's not even close to what we're seeing right now. So the fact that the Giants are in great hands with, not even just Brian Dable, who's been a great first-year coach, and I do think deserves Coach of the Year once again, but Don Martindale on defense, I thought he called an excellent game. There was like one time he kind of annoyed me where they had a screen pass to Goddard, and it was a pretty obvious blitzing situation, so that kind of annoyed me. But outside of that, a pretty flawless defensive, called game from Don Martindale. And even the offense with Mike Kafka, even though you had some wacko fans saying that Mike Kafka should be fired at one point this year. But what the offense is doing with what they have is very impressive. It does coincide with the quarterbacks, of course, Jones playing in the last, 16 games, playing mostly turnover-free football. That definitely helps. But, Davis Webb today, no turnovers, almost had a couple, as we know, but he did a good job protecting the ball, and Daniel Jones did a good job protecting the ball the entire season. But I think without these coaches, the Giants wouldn't even be in this situation. I don't think it's outlandish to say that whatsoever. So, of course, the players deserve credit, but for me, if you're trying to give a certain percentage of credit to who deserves the credit for being a 9-win team, I would say the coaches are on top. I really do believe that. I think without these coaches, I don't think the Giants have this type of turnaround. If you replace Joe Judge with an average coach, I don't think the Giants are in this place right now. So I think the Giants are in great hands with the coaches they have, and it leaves you very excited for the future because the Giants roster will get better. And, they're coming off the Dave Gettleman tenure, and I know now that Dave Gettleman's kind of getting his flowers from some people because this roster has a lot of his guys on it. And yeah, I get it, but the guy was still an awful GM. You're going to find good players in 4 years of drafting and signing guys, but still, Dave Gettleman was awful, let's be honest. But all right, so back into this game now, as we just talked about the coaching staff, but Davis Webb was 23 of 40, 168, one touchdown, no turnovers. As I mentioned, he almost had a couple. There was a dropped interception a couple times, but luckily none there. Gary Brightwell, 11 attempts, 60 yards, 5.5 per carry, and Lawrence Cager was the leading receiver with 8 catches for 69 yards, and I believe Cager had a very key play on the 4th and short in the fourth quarter, where right before the Golladay touchdown, and he had to reach over the first down line. He got it. I think it was Cager. It may have been Marcus Johnson, but I'm pretty sure it was Cager, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, Kenny Golladay. I definitely want to talk about this. It was one of those things where I don't know how to describe it. I was so happy for the guy because I always think back to that tweet the Giants account on Twitter made, and probably Instagram too, and probably Facebook, every social media. But I was thinking back to that post where they posted before last year, 2021, where they said Kenny Golladay will have blank amount of touchdowns this year. And yet people responding 8, 10, 11, 12, and blah, blah, blah. And it took him until the final game of 2022, not 2021, 2022, to finally find the freaking end zone. And it wasn't just your regular touchdown, guy was wide open. No, this was a spectacular catch by Kenny Golladay, a 50-50 ball where, I don't know why he doesn't get more chances. I get Golladay is pretty washed and definitely, has dealt with injuries and things like that. But I don't know why, even when Daniel Jones is in, I don't know why the Giants can't give this guy a 50-50 ball once per game. That's the one thing he's good at. He has the size, he has the ability to track the ball, and we saw what happened today or tonight when they gave him a 50-50 shot and it resulted in a touchdown. So I don't know why they can't do more of that going forward, but obviously Golladay probably won't be a big part of the Giants' playoff plans. It'll mostly be Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James and Darius Slayton, so those will be the main guys. But if Golladay gets in there, I don't know why you wouldn't give him 50-50 balls. You know what I mean? Because people say oh, well, that could result in an interception. And yeah, you're right. Anytime you throw the ball, it could result in an interception. I get it. But it could also result in a big play, like this one was, a touchdown, or a pass interference, defensive holding, or whatever. There's more positives that come out of throwing a 50-50 ball than turning the ball over. And even if you turn the ball over on a 50-50 ball, most times when you're throwing a 50-50 ball, it's 30, 40, 50 yards down the field. So it's kind of like an arm punt in a way. You don't want to turn the ball over, but it's not like you're throwing a interception near your line of scrimmage or something like that, where it's much more, it's much worse. So I would much rather see Kenny Golladay get a shot or two per game, but I doubt that's going to change. But after seeing what happened today, I don't know why it can't happen, but for a guy who's making $72 million to be a guy who was supposed to be the red zone monster for the Giants to finally score a touchdown, it was great to see. So I'm happy for the guy. And then Jihad Ward sat down next to him, and the TV, caught that, glimpse of Jihad Ward giving double middle fingers. Between Jihad Ward and what Eli Manning did on the Manning cast last year, the double bird has been definitely big for the Giants of, the past and current. So it's great to see that. But Davis Webb, he trucked the guy for a touchdown. That was cool. That was the first touchdown of the game for the Giants when they scored in the early fourth quarter. and they started to make it a game. It was like it was 22-10, I think, after that, or 19-10 or something. I don't know. It was still like a 2-possession game, but it was cool to see Davis Webb truck a guy for a touchdown. So Brian Dable tried 2 fakes on special teams, and it did not go well. So he tried to pull the Saints in 2010, I think, the Super Bowl when they won it with Drew Brees. And they tried they didn't try. They successfully recovered the onside kick out of halftime. And I do believe, fun fact, former Giant Jonathan Casillas actually recovered that onside kick. I'm pretty sure it was him. I hope it's him, or else that would be not a fun fact. That'd be a false fact. But I'm pretty sure it was Casillas. But yeah, the Giants tried that. It almost worked, but the ball kind of went out of bounds. I think it was Kayvon Wallace recovered that for Philly, but I didn't mind it. I mean, look, you're down 2 possessions to a team that you're under 2 or over 2 touchdown underdogs to. Like, I didn't mind that at all, but I tweeted that Brian Dable was out there playing Madden because that came right after the fake field goal as well. And that was a play where it was a 47-yard field goal, I believe, so not an easy one, but Graham Gano is mostly going to make that. But they decide to have the holder, Gillen, the punter, I'll call him, he, rolls out and tries to throw to the tight end, but he was covered. And for some reason, he just it was a deer in headlights. He stood there and did nothing. I would rather just have the punter throw the ball to the tight end and maybe you get a pass interference or something. Just to get sacked basically was bad. So I wish Jamie Gillen threw that ball because, obviously taking a sack there on a 4th down play was not ideal. So lots of mistakes. I mean, the Giants, I'll look at the penalty yardage, but it just felt like every time they were in a 3rd down situation or something, there was always a false start. The Giants had 8 penalties resulting in 66 yards. Philly only had 4 penalties for 30 yards. So obviously when you're playing backups, guys that are not very disciplined, I mean, it's going to happen, but it was frustrating because there would be a 3rd and 5, and then it goes to 3rd and 10, and sometimes that'd be the difference between converting and not converting. So that stuff was annoying. Evan Neal, he had a rough last game of the season, a very up and down year for Evan Neal, to put it nicely. Of course, had the injury. I'm not giving up on him at all. I am definitely not out on Evan Neal. If he shows no improvement in year 2, we'll have that conversation. But for right now, at least, I am not concerned at all. I mean, of course, I'm concerned right now because we have a playoff game coming up, and I hope he doesn't get manhandled by Danielle Hunter and guys like that, but we'll find out. I don't have concerns about the long-term future of Evan Neal. I think he'll be fine. He's been a stud for a long time. He played 3 different positions on the offensive line for Alabama. He was great, so I think he'll adjust and he'll be all right, but hopefully he gets to go in next year. Not even next year, starting next week. I hope Evan Neal becomes a stud, but this was not his best showing. The Giants' offensive line, now this is a positive, did not allow a sack or a quarterback hit, which is awesome. I do have to give credit to Davis Webb, for the way he maneuvered the pocket. He looked very good. I mean, he looked like a natural out there, honestly. My friend watching this game, he was like, I feel like, Webb has not been sacked at all today. And then, he was correct. And, I did notice that he was doing a very good job of eluding pressure. And when there was pressure, actually, Davis Webb is faster than I thought. I mean, he's not Daniel Jones. Now, Daniel Jones is like a gazelle. He has those long legs and the long strides, but Davis Webb is pretty quick in his own right, so that was cool to see, but he definitely got out of some pressure. He also did that thing where you spin out to your left, which is something I hope Jones, adds to his game in the future. He might do it sometimes, but I don't see it enough. But, he did that rollout to his left, the spin move on Hassan Reddick, and he almost completed that pass in the first quarter. It was off the one hand of Marcus Johnson. That would have been a sick play. So, to see that, I wish it obviously was caught, but Davis Webb found a way to extend some plays today, and it was nice to see. I think he had very good pocket awareness out there, so that was cool. So yeah, offensively, it was pretty ugly for most of the game, but the fourth quarter came around, and they got a bit better. And Philly's defense was allowing some bigger plays that they were not allowing early on, but the main thing was seeing Kenny Golladay score. That was awesome. And of course, I saw Talking Giants tweet this, and it's a very good question. So I want to ask you guys, will this be remembered as the Kenny Golladay game or the Davis Webb game? Because that's a very good question. I think for me, I'm going to say it's a Davis Webb game because this will probably be the only time Davis Webb ever starts a game for the Giants in his career. I mean, unless something crazy happens, but I think this is the Davis Webb game. If you want to call it the Golladay game, I'm not going to argue, but that's just my opinion. I'll call it the Davis Webb game. Giants defense. Boston Scott scored a touchdown. I put the sky is blue, in like the quotations, because he scores every time he plays the Giants. I think I saw that Boston Scott has either 16 or 17 career touchdowns, and 10 of those are against the Giants. So I don't know how the man does it. I really don't. But every time he gets the ball inside like the 10-yard line, you know what's going to happen. So good for Boston Scott, who, by the way, is very good at Rocket League, a game that I'm not very good at. So I'm jealous of Boston Scott, and I don't like him because he scores on my Giants every time. So maybe he'll give me some Rocket League lessons at one point. Defense was great today. They held Philly to 5 field goals. I mean, that was awesome. As I said, I know Jalen Hurts came back, first game in a while. But for the lack of talent they had out there, to hold them to 5 field goals, 22 offensive points on top of your offense, not putting them. The Giants offense, they went for the onside kick. That already gave Philly great field position. They went for the fake field goal. That gave Philly good field position. The Giants offense for a lot of the first 3 quarters was trash. So Philly had good field position. But the Giants still held them to 3 so many times. And I do think Nick Sirianni probably opted to go with more field goals because he knew the Giants offense was not going to respond and put up some big points. So he probably thought, hey, we can win this game getting by on field goals. So maybe that altered Nick Sirianni's decision making. I definitely can see that. But I do give the Giants defense credit with the guys they had out there making the plays they did. Timon Fox, he had some big plays, a big pressure that caused an incompletion. He was making some key tackles. So it was great to see him out there. Dane Belton, end zone interception. That was a big play, kind of got the Giants some momentum, and I think they scored a couple touchdowns right after that. And it was funny because that play, the play right before the Dane Belton interception, I think that, by the way, that's Dane Belton's second interception this year in the end zone, right? I think he had one. It was on the left side of the end zone. I forget who it's against now. I think it was a home game, maybe versus Houston, maybe. I could be wrong, but I think he had one against Houston. But anyway, so right before the Dane Belton interception and played before, Devontae Smith did score a touchdown, but then a late flag came in for an illegal man downfield. So Philly lost 5 yards, had to play it down again. And then Jalen Hurts, the same way he forced the ball to Tay Crowder last year when the Giants were home against Philly. I think the Giants won that game. That was the game where Jones hurt his neck. But he just forced the ball for some reason, and, Dane Belton was right there for the interception, so he made a play. Credit to him. Dane Belton's made some plays this year. He has not been perfect at all, but Dane Belton has been a playmaker, so I hope he improves in year 2. He's been looking pretty good for the most part. Of course, he has to stay healthy. He hurt his collarbone this year, so hopefully Dane Belton does stay healthy, because I do think he can be a pretty good rotational secondary piece for a long time. Kind of like Julian Love. Julian Love for a long time was just that really good depth piece that the Giants had. Then he really turned into a really good player this year, Julian Love. So I hope that Dane Belton has a similar trajectory that Julian Love had. Nick McLeod even had 1.5 sacks, so that was good to see. They kind of gave Nick McLeod some love on the broadcast, so it was good to see that. I think he had some rough moments versus A.J. Brown, but it is what it is. I mean, I didn't expect that matchup to go that great anyway. Jarrad Davis, is Jared Davis or Gerard? I feel like it's Gerard, but I could be wrong. Jarrad Davis, he played a lot. The Giants just picked him up from, I think, Detroit's practice squad. He had 10 tackles, and apparently the Giants like him a lot. So he might be the Giants starting inside linebacker against the Vikings next week. It would not shock me all that much. The Giants definitely have a lot of issues at the inside linebacker spot. I mean, they were kind of resorting to playing Landon Collins there at some points, and obviously we know Landon is more of a strong safety, not an inside linebacker. So, Davis might play a lot of inside linebacker versus Minnesota. I'm definitely prepared for that. He had 10 tackles total. I didn't notice him making any spectacular plays, but he wasn't bad either, so I will take that for the Giants linebacker spot, that's for sure. But a great game from Don Martindale. There was the time where Jalen Hurts got sacked on back-to-back plays in the red zone because Don Martindale just sent so much pressure and he had nowhere to go with the ball. So that was good to see. I mean, Jalen Hurts, as I mentioned, he was avoiding hits any way he could today, so this was not like the 100% version of Jalen Hurts, but as I said, to hold them to 22 offensive points with short fields and your main guys out on defense, it's very impressive. I was very happy with what I saw on the defense today, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not much else to say about this game. As I mentioned, the Giants, they will get the Vikings next week. I saw that Dalvin Cook went down with an injury, but I do believe he's fine, so I would not expect him to miss that game. But yeah, it's going to be next week, of course. Kirk Cousins played and Nick Mullins played, but Cousins, he had a good game out there. He was playing at Chicago outdoors, and that's a tough environment. But yeah, he had a pretty good game, Kirk Cousins. But yeah, we saw that matchup a few weeks ago. I think it was Christmas Eve, right? Giants and Vikings, and I think that was a week 15, 16, something like that. So, they're going to be playing next week, and I think the Giants have a chance. I really do. And I did tweet that I think the Giants will win that game. And I'm not trying to be a homer. You guys know I'm not a homer. I'm very honest about my opinions on here. I think the Giants can win that game 100%. So I hope they do it. Daniel Jones had a great game through the air against the Vikings, over 300 yards, 30 for 42, one touchdown, had the one interception. But as I said, when Jones throws an interception, but he's being aggressive, I don't care. Like, I would rather have him be aggressive than be conservative all game and have no interceptions. So that's the way I look at it. You definitely put up more points with explosive plays. We know that. Saquon had a pretty good game versus Minnesota, had the big 4th and 2 run to tie the game and the 2-point conversion right after. So that was good. Richie James, Hodgins had big games. Even Darius Slayton, 79 yards. So the Giants offense, they can put up points at Minnesota. I do not, not believe that for 1 second. I really do believe the Giants offense will put up at least 20 against Minnesota. Unless they crap their pants because it's a playoff game or something like that, which I don't think will happen. Because for a lot of guys, it's their first playoff game. I think for mostly our entire offense, it's probably their first playoff game. Like, you think about Jones, Barkley, maybe Hodgins. I don't think he played in playoff games, but Richie James maybe for San Fran, but definitely did not play a big role like he is right now. Bellinger, pretty much the entire offensive line outside of Feliciano, just everybody. Like, it's their first playoff game. Darius Slayton. So there might be some jitters, some nerves, and things like that. But as long as they get over that stuff, there's no reason why the Giants offense will not put up a lot of points against Minnesota. And I'm not saying 35, but I'm saying 20 plus. Give me 21 to 27 points or something. I think the Giants defense hopefully can do a good job against Minnesota's offense, which of course they have guys. They have Jefferson, they have Cook, they have Thielen, they have both their tight ends now. I think that Irv Smith is back along with TJ Hawkinson. So they have guys, a ton of weapons on that team. Even what's his name? KJ Osborne, the third receiver, led them in yards today. He had a big catch. So, yeah, I mean, look, their offense is good. Kirk Cousins basically had 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Giants last time they played. So, it's going to happen. What the hell just happened with this field goal in the Packers game? I don't know what just happened. They like skipped the ball on the ground, but now there's a flag. So I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I want to see the Packers win. That'd be cool. I think Packers-Niners would be a cool matchup in the first round. So I will do my entire like playoff preview probably tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's Monday. Yeah, I'll do my playoff preview and predictions and all that stuff tomorrow. But as for the Giants, they lose a close one today, is what it is. I think it kind of hurt Philly's confidence, though. I do say that. You know what I mean? Like, I saw someone tweet that today, that Brian Dable had like this whole reverse psychology thing of like playing his backups against Philly and Philly barely winning and then losing a lot of confidence. And like maybe there's something to that. I don't know. But I do think the Giants did make the right choice by benching their main starters. I definitely wanted that to happen. As I was reacting to the Colts game last week, I told you guys the same thing. I'm like, I'd rather just not see those guys play and go into Minnesota or San Fran, whatever it would be, healthy. And we're going to get that. So that's great to see. Of course, practices, you never know. But for the most part, these guys will be healthy. And that's all you want to see. We'll see what happens in the first playoff game in the last, 6 years, I think it's been, since the Green Bay one, where it did not go too well. But the Giants will be at another NFC North opponent. This time it's the Vikings. And hopefully they find a way to win. And I do think they will. So we'll talk about that game more in depth on Friday. I hope you guys stay tuned for that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I'll talk to you guys next time.